Why you'll regret starting a Shopify business with $0. Everywhere on YouTube and social media, people are telling you you can start a Shopify business, you can start an e-commerce business with no money, with $0. Actually, quite literally, it's the most searched keyword term with Shopify e-commerce business is how to start it with $0. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly why you would regret doing that if you're thinking about starting a Shopify or e-commerce business. Now, I'm not saying you need to invest tens of thousands of dollars. I'm just saying that if you don't invest anything and don't pay for a few critical things, you're going to regret it, like hardcore regret it. And I'm going to go through every reason why. If you're not already subscribed to the channel and you're an aspiring entrepreneur, you want to make more money, you want to get out of the rat race we have in the US, think about subscribing. Lots of cool content on this channel that'll help you learn about how to do that. Let's say you fall in trap or you're about to fall in trap to all the videos that are like start a Shopify business with $0. Pause. Let me tell you something for a second. Every single one of those people and content creators that are saying that you can do that didn't do that themselves. And if they did do that themselves, they recycled and restarted with some money down to protect themselves. Inherently, they did if they're successful enough for you to see their video and be consuming their content. So let's start off why. The easiest reason, the easiest reason not to start with $0 is to register an LLC behind your business so that if you get sued, they don't take everything off you and you don't have to declare bankruptcy. If you start an LLC, it separates your business with your personal life, and if your business gets sued, I'm not a lawyer here, but you can separate the two and your business will fail, but your life will not fail. Someone won't take everything that you've ever owned. And that costs a little bit of money. Does it cost a lot? No. I think I live in one of the higher cost states. I'm in Massachusetts. It costs $600 a year to have an LLC. It's significantly cheaper in other states. With that said, that's a clear winner. But let's get deeper into it, because let's say you want to live on the wild side and you don't want to have an LLC. Well, the next thing is it's impossible to do any product selection or get any samples, right? If you're doing drop shipping or you're housing products, if you're starting with $0, you can't get a sample. So inherently you're drop shipping. You're not housing products. But you can't even get a sample of what you're drop shipping with. So how do you create content? How do you understand shipping times? How do you check the quality of it? How do you not lose money when people place orders and it either doesn't ever get delivered or everything that you get delivered is crap and you have to refund all these people, but you still lose the cost of the credit card fees for the transaction and the cost of the product to your person and the cost of shipping it to get to your customer. You don't get to charge that back to your manufacturer or to AliExpress. That's just a cost you're eating. So how are you supposed to do any of that due diligence if you don't have any money to start? The other thing is, like, how do you sell, right? You need to have an email, you need to have a Shopify plan, you need to have all these basic things. And sure, there's slight ways to get around it, free trials and all that stuff, but it's a very short runway for that. You need to be ready to go immediately. On top of that, theoretically, how do you even intake your first product? You don't get paid right away. So when a customer places an order, you've got to front the money to send them the order. Not the end of the world, just wanted to say it out loud because it is kind of true. Bringing across the fallacy of starting with $0 isn't really real technically, unless you have crappy customer service and you fulfill it like a week later. But I think the biggest thing here is understanding proper product selection. With $0, you'll never be able to do the type of testing and market research for the product that will identify a successful business, and ultimately in the long run, it's going to cost you significantly more than just doing it correctly in the first place. You might find that starting a business with $0 doesn't feel like a risk, but after you invest all your time and effort over weeks and weeks and months for a product, you're gonna get to the point where you're like, well, if I just pay a little bit of money now, I can really understand if it ramps up. And then the product fails because you haven't tested it properly and you've spent some money. And then you rinse and repeat and you rinse and repeat. And all of a sudden you've done this so many times that your cost is higher than if you did the right market research in the first place by testing products, running, low-cost ad sets to understand if your product is hitting, what the conversion rates are, just understanding whether it makes sense in your community, all those types of things to prove that there's market demand and market need for what you're trying to sell, and that you're actually gonna be able to get conversions off the product. You're for sure gonna regret it long-term because the cost is gonna be still smaller by just testing the product properly than to try to reiterate through these processes. And if you wanna pause for a second and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, one, I can tell you for sure because I've done so much mentorship within the space and everyone comes to me after the same time. They've spent a year and a half, maybe 6 months, and they've tried product after product after store, and they've ended up actually spending quite a lot of money. Sometimes it's not a ton, sometimes it's $1,000 over a year, or $2,000 over 2 years, $700 over 6 months. And it doesn't sound like a lot of money, or maybe it does sound like a lot of money, but if you just did the right thing in the first place, that $700 or $1,000 would not only prove accurately whether the product's good, and you can cycle through a couple products and you can get through a bunch of samples and try different things, but what you'll also do is you'll build some skill set, and at the very least you'll get some sales across the table because you're doing all this like testing and advertising. It's naturally going to still convert some sales. You'll have some cash flow in the business, and it won't hurt as much when you're doing your testing process. And that's where it all boils down to. If you don't test and do all the product and market research correctly by, again, low-cost ad sets and multiple samples and finding the right manufacturer by actually getting multiple samples and then creating content with the samples, you're not going to be successful in the long run. And we see this all the time. What these content creators thrive off of is that initial, wow, I got a sale, but then you're never going to be able to pursue it long term because, well, all right, hold on. Maybe you will if you hit the lottery ticket. And that's typically what people then end up posting, and then it makes everyone feel like, I can do this. But the reality is it's not going to happen. I think going into it, you should understand that's not going to happen to you. So work a little bit more, save a little bit of money, have the money to actually do the due diligence and actually start a business the correct way. Save $1,000. $1,000 goes a long way when you're trying to start a business. Starting with $1,000 versus $0 is going to greatly change, one, the runway of the business and how quickly you're making money, but in the long term, whether you can actually pursue something long term or whether it's a fad and it's going to be a quick turn and burn, which isn't good in e-commerce because you won't really take money off the table until the long term when you've got product built up and you've proven a product and you're taking it in and actually housing the inventory yourself and selling it that way. That's where you become successful, and you're just not going to do that if you start your business with $0. Something to think about, and I'll see you guys in the next video.